for 1 year at a time, starting with the eldest brother Yudhishthira. So that's what they did, and then they would go in rotation. They all had other wives as well, so it's not like she was the only one. But still, so that's one example of how the word of honor was so important to the Kshatriyas and the devotees. Oh, and then in connection with this same thing, there was another incident where a little bit later Yudhishthira, and they also had a deal where, okay, if Draupadī is in the bedchamber with the brother who is currently cohabiting with her, and one of us interrupts them, he has to go on pilgrimage for a year. He has to go in exile for a year. That was their deal. Yeah, I mean, it was a very smart arrangement. That would keep jealousy and all of that out of it. So anyway, one time, Draupadī and Yudhishthira were in the bedchamber, and there was some emergency. I forget what it was. Some demon was attacking or something like this. And Arjuna needed to get his weapons, and they were in the bedchamber. So all the brothers were like, "Oh, who's going to do it?" So Arjuna said, "I'll do it." And he went in the bedchamber. "Oh, excuse me, guys," and grabbed the weapons, and then they went and killed the demon or whatever. So then when they came back, Arjuna said, "Well, okay, I'll see you later, going on pilgrimage." And they all went, "No, no, no, you don't have to go." But Arjuna said, "Wait a minute. We all agreed that this was the deal. These were the terms. So if we don't do it, then we're breaking our word." You see? This is devotee. This is Kshatriya. This is king. A real king is someone who has control of their mind and senses. It's not someone who controls others. That's secondary. That comes naturally. If you can control yourself, if you can control your own mind and senses, then you have the right to control others. Otherwise, not. So Arjuna and his brothers, they all had this Vak Siddhi, that whatever they said, that's what was going to happen. And they never broke their word in their whole life, except for one time. You know that time?
No.
No? You know that? During the battle of Kurukshetra.
There's a Kṛṣṇa. Krishna's word.
Because of Kṛṣṇa.
Yeah.
Kṛṣṇa ordered Yudhishthira to lie to Drona and tell him that his son was dead. Drona's son's name was Ashvatthama. So Yudhishthira said, "Kṛṣṇa, I can't do that." I mean, Yudhishthira was so famous for his word of honor that even his enemies used to rely on his word of honor. If Yudhishthira says he's going to do something, that's what he's going to do. So when Yudhishthira was asked by Kṛṣṇa to lie to Drona, because actually Ashvatthama was off in another corner of the battlefield fighting with some other people. And Yudhishthira said, "I can't do that, Kṛṣṇa." So he said, "Well, you don't have to exactly lie. We'll take this elephant named Ashvatthama and kill him. And then you go to Drona and say, Ashvatthama is dead." So, very reluctantly, Yudhishthira agreed to do this. So they killed the elephant, and then Yudhishthira goes out on the battlefield and he approaches Drona, and he says, "Ashvatthama is dead." So then Drona says, "You mean Ashvatthama, my son?" So what's Yudhishthira going to say? You know? So he goes, "Yes, Ashvatthama, the elephant, is dead." And it's said that, Yudhishthira was so pious and so sinless that his chariot used to float above the ground a few inches. It never actually touched the ground. But when he said that, his chariot touched the ground. So later on, he very much regretted having to do that. But that's war, right? War is hell. And he did it on the direct order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, later on when Yudhishthira went to the heavenly planets, he was talking with the demigods. I mean, Indra was there and Yamaraj and everybody like that. So he asked Yamaraj, he said, you know, Indra said, well, you're sinless. You have no sins. And he says, well, wait a minute, what about that lie I told to Drona when my chariot touched the ground? And Yamaraj said, your chariot touched the ground because you hesitated to follow the order of Kṛṣṇa, not because you lied on Kṛṣṇa's order. So let's get our priorities straight. If there's some nonsense going on in the material world that you have to take care of, and you already made a promise to your spiritual master, what's more important? The material nonsense or the promise you made? Huh? Peter?
Well, he doesn't seem to know what we're talking about. He says, I'm still coming to Mexico. I have a court date to go. Still waiting for the mail. There's nothing I can do.
Don't go to court. I didn't go. Tell him I had to go to court and I just looked it off. I'm going to Mexico.
He's gonna like delay his trip to see his spiritual master over a traffic ticket.
Yeah, some wrathful judge with big hammer.
Peter, you told us you were coming in the first week of July, remember?
Don't be a judge. Piece of paper.
Oh yeah, I'm flexible. I can come anytime. That's what you said. And we haven't heard anything since. So, anyway, are there more questions?
Oh yeah, there are quite a few.
Oh, good.
So let's start with Neville's question. There are some related to that. So he says, in the latest darshan, there was discussion about interpreting our realizations only within the scope of the scriptures, which is not actually correct, so that we have correct interpretation of experience. Babaji, some of your realizations are outside the scope of scripture because the scripture cannot contain all possible spiritual varieties. But what is the principle in understanding realizations not explicitly mentioned in the scripture?
Well, first of all, it's not just scripture. It's Shastra, Guru, and Sadhu. So, even if a realization is outside the scope of the scripture, because the scriptures are limited, still it has to follow the general principles of devotional service. And if it's not against those principles, then there's no harm. Because there's an unlimited variety of spiritual experiences in the spiritual world. Nobody can say that we have written down or recorded all the possibilities, because it can't be done. There's simply not enough space in the whole world to write down everything that goes on in the spiritual world. It's said that Ananta Shesha, with his millions of mouths, has been reciting the glories of Kṛṣṇa ever since the beginning of time, or actually all eternity, and still he never gets to the end. He never even gets close to the end. Because as soon as you say one thing about Kṛṣṇa, then Kṛṣṇa expands. Oh, hi, Birdie.
Crazy boy.
Yeah, there's this bird that comes to the window every day, serenades me. Anyway, so the scriptures may give certain specific realizations, according to the space available. But then to cover the rest of the possibilities, they give general principles. And as long as the realization is not against the general principles of devotional service, then what's the harm in that? I mean, really, the problem is people have too literal of interpretation of the scriptures. And we've seen this again and again. This is called fundamentalism. Fundamentalism means if it's a kind of a legalistic attitude towards interpreting the scripture. That if something isn't stated explicitly, then it's not true or it's not acceptable. But then we read things like, Kṛṣṇa is the all-attractive. Kṛṣṇa is attractive to men, women, animals, demigods.